Quran burnings have Sweden torn between free speech and respecting minorities. I'll save it for the end. Stockholm, a Quran burning and a string of requests to approve protests involving the destruction of more holy books have left Sweden torn between its commitment to free speech and its respect for religious minorities. The clash of fundamental principles has complicated Sweden's desire to join NATO, an expansion that gained urgency after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but needs the approval of all current members. Turkey has blocked Swedish accession since last year, citing reasons including anti-Turkish and anti-Islamic protests in Stockholm. Then last week, an Iraqi Christian immigrant burned Islam's holy book outside a Stockholm mosque during the major Muslim holiday of Eid al-Adha, an act that the man said displayed his feelings about the Quran. And he was perfectly within his right to do so. The burning triggered widespread condemnation in the Islamic world, but I mean, let's be honest, it's not hard. And along with similar recent protests by a far-right activist, anytime I read it now, I'm like, are they? Are they far right? They're probably not. It sparked a debate in Sweden about the limits of freedom of speech. Now, Swedish police say they have received new requests for demonstrations by individuals who want to burn the Quran, as well as the Torah and the Bible. Muslim countries have urged Sweden to enact bans, and Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif called for a day-long protest to defend the sanctity of Islam's holy book on Friday, when Pakistan's parliament will discuss Quran burning. Even some liberal commentators in Sweden argue that the protests should be regarded as hate speech, which is outlawed in the country when it targets ethnicity or race. But many in Sweden say criticising religion, even in a manner that is considered offensive by believers, must be allowed, and that Sweden should resist pressure to reintroduce blasphemy laws, which were abandoned decades ago in this predominantly Lutheran but highly secularised Scandinavian nation. It is a very serious situation for Sweden, said Magnus Ranstorp, a terrorism expert who is strategic advisor for the Centre for... I'm sorry. I'm just laughing when it's like, someone burned the Quran. Now here is our terrorism expert. It's because they know it's going to happen. Yes. You accidentally told the truth there, my boy. My boy Ranstorp. Sorry, who is a strategic advisor for the Centre for Societal Security at the Swedish Defence University. President Joe Biden welcomed Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson to the White House Wednesday and reiterated his belief in the importance of Sweden joining NATO. I want to reiterate the United States fully supports Sweden's membership in NATO, Biden said from the Oval Office. The bottom line is simple: Sweden is going to make our alliance stronger. I mean, not really. I mean, about the year 1100, definitely. Now, have you seen the average Swede? I mean, no offence. I mean, compare the average Swede to the average Finn. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Stockholm police on Wednesday. I'm trying to insult as many peoples as I can before the end of this video. Stockholm police on Wednesday said they had received 2 new applications for book burning protests in the capital. I love that application. You need to apply for a protest. One from an individual who wants to burn the Quran outside a mosque, and another from someone who wants to burn the Torah and the Bible outside Israel's embassy. I've heard a little bit about that last one. I'll try and remember. I'll bring it up at the end. Basically, he was a Muslim guy. He wanted to burn, I'll just say it now because I will forget. He wanted to burn the Torah and the Bible outside of Israel's embassy. He then went there, he then pulled out his lighter and then threw the lighter to the ground and says, I'm not going to burn this book because I'm Muslim. Muslims don't burn books. Muslims should also respect other people. He goes, when you respect our book, we will also respect your holy books, which is, a very nice and lovely message that he tried to put across, respect and all that type of stuff. However, he was fully in his right to burn those books if he wanted. But again, I'll save it for the end. A third request that involves setting a religious text on fire had been filed in the southern city of Helsingborg. Local police Matthias Sifbleh, fucking Schmergenbergen, fucking stupid fucking Scandi names, told the Associated Press, police have not yet decided on the requests. In Sweden, we have the freedom of expression. I've seen your laws. You don't. We also respect people who have a different opinion, and the fact that it may hurt some feelings. We have to look at the law. That is what we do, Sigfridsson said. Stockholm police tried to stop Quran burning protests earlier this year, but were overruled by a court that said such actions were protected by Swedish law. Citing that decision, police allowed the protest last week, where the man identified in Swedish media as a Christian from Iraq burned the Quran outside a mosque in Stockholm on Eid al-Adha. Muslim leaders in Sweden deplored the incident, but the strongest reactions were in the Middle East. The Swedish embassy in Baghdad was briefly stopped by angry protesters. The Organisation for Islamic Cooperation condemned the act and criticised Swedish authorities for allowing it. Iran held back on sending a new ambassador to Stockholm, and Pakistan asked the UN Human Rights Council to schedule a special session on the issue. Outside the Muslim world, Pope Francis also lamented the incident. Meanwhile, the Swedish government issued a statement saying it strongly rejects the Islamophobic act committed by individuals in Sweden, adding that it in no way reflects the opinions of the Swedish government. That's fine. That's fine. Distance yourself from it all you want, as long as people are allowed to do it. That elicited criticism from several commentators in Sweden, who said the government needs to stand up for freedom of speech and refrain from passing judgment on individual protests. I think it is exceptional and extremely inappropriate for the government to criticise an individual demonstration carried out by a person who, by all accounts, has stayed within the bounds of the law, who has only used his constitutional freedom of expression. Niels Funke, no idea how you pronounce that, a prominent Swedish freedom of speech advocate, told public broadcaster SVT. Sorry, Niels or Niels, I've no idea how to pronounce that. Sweden worries the situation is starting to resemble the fury Denmark faced from Muslim countries in 2006, following the publication of newspaper caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad. Danish consulates and embassies were burned, and the cartoonists faced death threats from radical Islamists. One of them was actually killed. Danish officials attempt. Why isn't no mentioning that part that a radical Muslim actually killed the guy? I think he shot him. It was either a shooting or a stabbing. Killed him in the street. Danish officials attempted to explain how such caricatures were protected under freedom of speech, were widely dismissed in the Muslim world to the shock of no one. Randstop said the timing of the latest Quran burning protest, just as Swedish and Turkish officials were getting ready to hold talks about Sweden's NATO bid this week, was suspicious. We have foreign powers like Russia, for example, which spread information in Arabic about this. We have Turkey, which is using it for leverage in the NATO debate, Randstop said. Oh God, are they even going to try and blame this on the Russians? The Iraqi man behind the protest told Swedish media it was aimed at Islam and not Sweden's NATO application. The Swedish security service has warned of Russian interference in Swedish society, which would make sense, considering the upcoming NATO talks and all that stuff, but we're going to live in an age where literally everything gets blamed on Russia. It's coming. That's going to be the new boogeyman. I've got a feeling that in the next few years, see how like the right wing, libertarians, right wing, conservatives, like fucking everyone, just anyone, not even the whole right wing, even like this chunk of the left wing, the whole right wing and this little chunk of the left wing, we were all the boogeymans, we were all the boogeymen for a very, very, very long time. But now that Russia's kicked off a little bit, the West is starting to panic, and it's kind of like, oh, God, Russia's now the boogeyman, not the right-wing people. Hey, come on, my fellow patriots, Russia's invading. Good, and I hope they fucking win. You can't... We've got long memories, boys. We remember how you treated us for the last 10 fucking years, right? Good, I hope they fucking win. Oh, but if they come in, they're going to adopt this really fucking strict government that's going to arrest you for tweets and that. Yeah, go on. Please, continue. God, that sounds awful. We've no idea what that's like. But anyway, before I get myself put on more lists, in general, the Swedish security service sees how authoritarian states like Russia use proxies in order to destabilise or influence Swedish public opinion and decision-making. Like demonising the entire section of the political spectrum that cares about its nation state, its flag, and defence of that state. Can any of you look me in the eye right now and tell me that you would fight for your country? Because remember, the way wars work now, you're not fighting for your country, you're fighting for your state. You're fighting for the government. I mean, like, Afghanistan, Iraq, what was the fucking point in that? What was the point in that? Exactly. I say that like you can answer. I mean, you answer in the comments, but I'm sorry, I don't read those. Sorry. Previously, non-aligned Sweden and neighbouring Finland rushed to apply for NATO membership after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine last year. Russia responded by warning of serious military political consequences that would require retaliatory steps by the Russian Federation. Finland joined NATO in April. Turkey and Hungary are the only NATO countries that have not yet ratified Sweden's accession. Olsen contributed from Copenhagen. Denmark and Munir Ahmed contributed from Islam. Oh, that's a fucking stupid thing at the end there. I don't give a fuck about that. Now, as far as the Quran burnings and all that goes, as soon as something is your property, you can do whatever the hell you want with it. Right? If you've got a Quran or a Torah or a Bible and it's your property, you can set it on fire, you can deep fat fry it and eat it, you can fucking staple it to your wall, you can do whatever the hell you want with it. That is your property. You can set it on fire, you can burn it on public streets because those are your streets. I would say, provided it's not going to cause any harm to other people's property. So, for example, if you're in your back garden, you set a Bible on fire, whatever. Right? If you set a Bible on fire and then throw it into your neighbour's house, well, no, you can't. You can't do that because you're going to set your neighbour's house on fire. That's willful damage to another person's property. If it's your property, however, that's fine. You can't steal a Bible or a Quran or a Torah from someone and then set fire to it and then go free speech because you've just stolen and destroyed someone else's property, and therefore you should be held liable for the damages and you have to buy them another fucking copy. Right? That's the way it works. So if people want to set fire to the Quran, the Bible, or the Torah, like, that they own, then hey-ho, that's fine. But they then can't throw it, into the mosque and try and set the mosque. No, you can't do that. That's damage to other. The way there's property rights, we all know how property works, right? So your property, do whatever the hell you want to it. I don't think the government should be coming down on this. However, you do have to wonder, because people rip up and set fire to Bibles all the time. Maybe not so much the Torah. Maybe a certain group of people do that, but people do that all the time with the Bible, and like nothing gets said. Nothing. I've seen people like take the Bible up to those like abortion protesters and rip it up in their face and stuff like that. I've seen people do that, and there's never any violence. But with a certain group of people, the government goes, "Oh no, stop! Please don't do that." Why? What are you so afraid of about this certain group of people? What are you trying to say, big guy?